Hello there, beautiful soul, and welcome back to my channel. I'm back with another tutorial and I'm so excited to share this one with all of you. Today we're going to talk a little bit more in depth about highlights, basically where to put them and different types of highlights that you can use to really make your page come to life and add that little extra final touch. I love to play around with highlights to really make the page pop and come alive, and always find it the perfect little extra touch at the end of a nice coloring session. The response from all of you to my last tutorial blows my mind and makes me so happy. I cannot tell you how excited I am to continue this little Tuesday series of tutorials. So if there's any kind of topics that you would love to me talk more in depth about and explain further in details, please let me know in the comments and I will be happy to make a little episode on each of the topics. So without further ado, let's get into today's video. So before we get into today's video and today's tutorial, I wanted to take a moment to thank you all from the bottom of my heart for your beautiful response to my very first tutorial last week. I am completely overwhelmed and filled with so much joy about your response, and that you loved it all so much just make me the happiest little chicken. So I wanted to take a moment to thank you all so much. Your feedback and your lovely comments just helped me so much and made me so excited because I cannot wait to continue the series. So without further ado, today we will be highlighting this picture that we created last week, and the fun part is you can work with these videos back to back and have a complete picture with shading and highlights all together. So what we will do today is add some highlights to this very cute little romantic image. I have to say this one was so much fun to color, and I really love what we did with the shadows and the lights in this one. So it's going to be a lot of fun to make this page pop even further, and that's one of the things that I truly love so much about highlights, is that it adds that little extra touch, like that final glow, if you will, and it's so much fun to play around with. And really the trick here is to not be scared and just unfold yourself. So it's all about what just feels good. There's a couple of things to think about that help guide you where to place them. We're going to talk about that today. So the pen that I really love to use for highlighting is this Uniball Signo Broad, and this is basically a gel roller, and you can in the end use any gel roller that you can get your hands on. It's way more important to get the materials that you can get your hands on, because it will be different in each country depending on what kind of shops you have, or if you have access to, for example, Amazon. And this one is really just a pen that I did pick up in my local paper shop, and it's ended up being a really good one. So it was by pure accident that I did stumble upon this one. And what I love about this one is that the tip, like it says, is pretty broad. So you have like this, oh, this one is really dirty. So it has this broad, yummy tip, which makes it really nice to do highlights with. And what I like too about it is that the white is very strong white, so it makes the highlight really pop. In the past, I've also done some highlights with a jelly roller, which was pretty cool as well. Just the only difference was that the white was a little more faded, so the highlights didn't shine through that much, and that was simply because I was running empty of these, because you use these up pretty quickly. I have to say, in the beginning I just bought one, and I think after doing 3 pages or so it was empty. So in a moment of need, I did grab a jelly roller that was lying around here, and it was kind of funny to feel how different that one was, but I like how strong this one is, and it has such a round edge that you really get this juicy, nice highlights. So when we're doing highlights, we're basically using a lot of the same theories that we used when we did the shadows. So you orientate on where the light comes from. So the fun part about highlighting is that it's really no limits to the madness. It's really sometimes an art of knowing when to stop before it gets too much, but there's really no limits to how far you can go, and it's all about personal preference. And again, this is just how I personally like to highlight and how I've just come to develop my sort of style. Like I said in the prior tutorial, over time you will pick up bits and pieces where you learn something new or you see something, and in the end you will create your own kind of style, and you will figure out what you like and what you don't like and do those little twists until you in the end eventually create your very own style. So this is just how I really enjoy highlighting. There's obviously many different ways of doing it, but what I like to do is to orientate first on where the light is coming from. So we have here the lamp, like we talked about in the first video. So we have the lamp here. You obviously have some kind of daylight coming from above, but in general we will have the light source coming from the upper left corner. And where we on the shadows that place the shadows on the opposite side, with the highlight we basically place the highlight on the point where the light hits first. So when the light comes from here, you will have the highlight on the doggo up here. You will have it on top of the chicken's head, on the leaves on top. So it's really basically where the light hits first. And the fun part is that you can really play around with the textures of the object that you're highlighting. So to start out with something simple and show you the different kind of highlighting you can do in your picture, and it's really about just playing around with both of them, because that's what's gonna make the page pop and come to life and feel vibrant and just lift it that little extra centimeter. So to start out with something simple, these leaves over here, they will be kind of like this wet surface, glossy, shiny surface. So I really love to make them really nice and juicy. So when you highlight them, you just add like this little white line, and I like to just add 2 dots. So I then continuously think, okay, where does the light hit first? And add the highlight there. So obviously this little place here. Then I can do 1 dot to not make it too repetitively. And here is really about going with your belly feeling. This obviously will have some kind of fold to it, so it will have a little highlights as well. And there's really, as I said, no limit to the madness here. Sometimes I really have to control myself to not go completely overboard, but it's so much fun to play around with, and it really makes such a huge difference. Here, for example, I don't know if I mentioned that in the first tutorial, but here we have, for example, by choice, 2 greens that are very similar. So by adding highlights to the little leaves here, you make this point of difference so that they still stand out from the background. That looks cute. And from there you really just go with the flow. So with the chicken over here, he obviously won't be too hard and glossy. Well, it could be, but here then I just like to put some just a single line without the dots, because the dots are really what makes it look this kind of wet and glossy. So we just continue here to the heart. This beautiful little love letter. And I love making the hearts really like with the two lines, they look super juicy and nice. So with the markers the light will hit, and it's really helpful because you added the shadows. It's really easy to know where to put the highlights, and you already see it makes a huge difference. I hope. Here, for example, I would love to add a little highlight on the little chicken's nose, but this space is so tiny that I think it will be super confusing and you won't see that much of the orange anymore. So I will leave it like that. Here with the pen, there's really no science to this. Like here, for example, with the pen, it will be a little hard to know exactly if the light comes from this side or that side. And there I really just go with whatever feels good. So the hand here will have some light reflection. And if I would add now two dots there, it would give kind of like the wrong message that this is something smooth. And since he has fur, that would then be a little confusing when you're reading the image. So the trick here is also a little pro tip to start on the side of the page that is the furthest away, because these bad boys are wet. I want to tell you how many times I've had my hand stuck in the wet paint and did place then the white highlight all over the page. So it's really a trick and a tip to start on the left side. If you're a right-handed, start on the left side and then just work your way over, because they dry pretty quickly, so you don't have to worry too much about it. So we just continue with the lamp. So this one is obviously a smooth surface and a hard surface. I would just, and since it's a curved object, you don't necessarily have to place the highlight at the edge, because the highlight could come from the highest point of the lamp, could be here as well. So giving it slightly a curve like that could look super realistic. And then also the neck of it just makes it look super juicy and glossy. So we're gonna continue with the roof. So the light would obviously hit these lines of rocks. So we just pop some color on here, have some highlight. And as you see, it just makes it look this really nice and juicy, shiny. Like I feel always like this makes really the page look super, not necessarily realistic, but full of life. So we go along here as well. And birdie here, little purple dove, he will be shining today as well. And I'm really just hitting the spots that would be first affected by light. And then when it comes to surfaces like these, it's really all about just expressing yourself and figuring out, okay, what would feel realistic, or what would where would the light shine on this one. So I think I will slightly down here. And as you go along, you already see the dimensions coming to life, and you really feel that 3D effect. Like that. And for example here, although these plants are in the shadow, they will cast some kind of light as well because of the daylight coming in, so I don't mind too much adding some highlights although they're standing in the shadow. Again, there's gonna be no highlight police coming for your pages. Is all about just having fun with it and playing around with it, and you will soon just get a feel to what you like and what you don't like. So we've got some flowers over here, and with the flowers I just like to add some little details. Like that. And here with the paper, also I just like to highlight the point where the light would hit first. Again, heart, a little juicy. It looks so cute. So making sure this is nice and dry before we plant our hand on it. So I think that's kind of nice. What we could do now is do some kind of highlighting on the front of the house here. So we have a light coming from here. You can't really determine if it's very far in front or not, so putting some highlights here I think would be okay. And again, since it's kind of like a hard surface, like a shiny surface, I like adding those little dots. It just makes it look super juicy and rich. So Doggo here needs some highlights too. If not, it's gonna be sad. So obviously the light would hit the top of his head first. So I would add some highlights there without adding too much dots, because again he will be kind of having like this fluffy texture. There you go. And then you just always figure out as you go what feels a little weird and what feels good. You could argue if he wouldn't need any highlights at all, because fur like that wouldn't necessarily reflect too much light, but for the sake of this video I just want to show you guys how you could go about it. Looks like he has a little hat on there. Anyways, so what I have been playing around with lately, and that's not necessarily highlights, but it's kind of like a cute little detail for the grass, is adding these little white flower thingies to grass. And it's basically just consisting of 3 white dots, and it kind of adds like this, I don't even know how to describe it, like this magical, whimsical feel to the image. And it's all about just placing them really just all a little further apart, never really hitting the lines, because then it could look very planned. But I really like how that looks like. It's just something that I've been playing around with in the latest images. Oh, that looks so cute summery. It just looks like these tiny little white flowers that you find in grass. Okay, now we have the problem what I mentioned here. Since I started on the right side, I have to take care I'm not planting my hand in the white paint. So we're just gonna add these little flowers. So, and this is really what I mentioned earlier. There's no limit to the madness here. So you could go on and add highlights until it ends up being too much. So I think we could add some little highlights on the bushes back here. I think that's enough. And there you go. Oh, maybe we add some. And it's all about just taking a step back from your image. Look at it from a different view, from a different angle, and then you see pretty much where you could still do something. And this is really what I love about highlighting. It's all about doing what feels good and looking at the picture, and as you go about and do this more often, you will catch yourself, or at least I do, you will catch yourself in everyday life looking at things differently and noticing where the highlight hits, where the shadow lies. When you're having shadows on clothes, you get a different eye for just absorbing life around you and taking inspiration. Translate that into your pictures. At least that's what is happening with me. Since I started this journey, I notice how I'm seeing things very different, and just noticing little things here and there when it comes to color combinations, or where shadow falls, or where the highlights hits. So it's really fun to play around with, and I really hope that I was able to explain a little in detail how the highlights work. The most important thing is really truly to keep in mind where your light source is and where the light is coming from, and basically placing the highlight on the place where the light will hit first. So if you keep that in mind and play around with the textures, if it's a hard, smooth surface that could be glossy or wet, then you can do with those little dots to it. It gives the impression of it being shiny or wet. Or if it's an object that have more texture to it, like clothing or grass, for example, or fur, you can just add those lines. And the fun part, what I could talk about in another video too, if you would like to, is to play around with warm highlights. So basically you could use a candle or a sunset to give yellow kind of highlights, and you would use then your markers when you go about coloring the pictures. I've done that in a few videos, and if that's something that you would love to learn more about, please let me know in the comments. I would love to do these kind of tutorials about topics that you would love to learn more about. And what I love so much about coloring is that in the end, it is a complete expression of what you feel inside. So each picture will be truly uniquely yours, and it's all about just expressing that what you feel inside, and create something that you truly enjoy and that you like. And there's really no limits to what you can do. So thank you so much for joining me on today's little tutorial. I hope it was helpful in some kind of way, and please let me know in the comments if there's any other topic that you would love for me to talk more about or explain a little more in depth. I want to thank all of you from the bottom of my heart for all your kind words, for your encouragement and your enthusiasm for my videos. That truly means the world to me. It makes me so happy. I can't believe that I get to do this, and it's really truly a dream come true, being able to share my passion and my creativity with so many beautiful, kind and like-minded souls, and it warms my heart truly, and for that I want to thank you all so much. I'm already looking forward to the next one. Thank you so much for stopping by, and come say hi in the comments. I truly love to chat with all of you so much, and you all make me so happy, and it's so much fun talking to you guys. So please come say hi in the comments, and I wish you a beautiful day. Bye.